at first it either is or
it
it
can
isn't.
still be flat. I can't prove the curvature at first. I'm just watching the sun go behind Earth.
Right, so the sun
thing that
goes
I think
behind
is
the Earth.
physical
So
because it feels physical.
all right, let's have an alternate hypothesis. Then the sun.
You're speaking on two different timelines, guys.
They have to ignore all the evidence the sun provides with its shadows. So
It's obviously not going to go anywhere, this, because Dawn doesn't know what the cause of the sun
What I'm saying is, even if your Earth's flat and you can't prove curvature or spin, you still see a physical object go behind Earth.
An optical phenomena.
So your model should have the sun going behind.
Optical phenomena. You're jumping back into your dimension.
Not just an optical phenomena.
Yeah, optical phenomena.
That
Yeah,
makes
that's
everything
right.
grow and blinds your eyes and changes the color of your skin.
No, the light hitting you blinds you.
Much more than optical.
No, the sun disk is optical. The light hitting you, that's real. That is just what it is. It is light hitting you and blinding you, getting in your eye.
When do you have light coming from a non-physical thing again, Owen?
We don't know if it is coming from that. You have no proof that the sunlight is coming from that disk. Just comes from that direction.
You can shield your eyes from it by putting your hand in front of the sun, between your eyes and the sun.
Yeah, then your hand obstructs the light hitting you and the optical phenomena of the sun. That's right.
Oh my God.
Let me ask you
Do
this.
observations account for anything? Do observations account for anything?
Look at that picture again. Wow.
the sun can't exist on a flat Earth.
The example of my thought experiment is on screen now, guys.
Right, let's have another thought. Let's have another thought experiment. Do we agree that the sun, on your model, lights half the Earth at once, and then half the Earth is going to be in darkness at all times? Yeah.
I don't know the exact science. I assume it's basically that.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, it has to be, right?
It goes up to just a little bit more sometimes.
And do we agree that the light takes about 8 to 9 minutes to get from the sun to the Earth? Apparently.
I don't know.
On your model, it's supposed to, right?
That's what I've read. Yeah.
We're
So-
offline, by the way, guys. So.
We see two things that are different. We see one, when the sun sets, we still see the sun, and then it drops behind the horizon as though it's here, but we're still getting light from it. And if the sun was really doing that, we should see literally the Terminator line pass from north to south in a westerly direction 9 minutes after the sun sets. But we don't. Once the sun sets, we don't see it anymore. We do not see a Terminator line going from the north to the south, but heading in a westerly direction. We see it disperse over a little tiny small pinprick over the horizon, and then that's it. It's gone. Does that not cause you any any problems?
You'll have to draw a picture.
No, come on. We all see the sunset. We all see.
Can you mute if you're not talking, Was, so we can just hear your. Sorry to interrupt.
Not much.
Whoever's
The
got the
light is
background
local, though.
noise.
We don't see
Sorry
a
to
Terminator
interrupt,
line.
guys. Before we go live again, can.
But it looks different with the sun filter.
Whoever's got the background noise going on, I can just. Or that's all I can hear is someone's background noise. Can you pepper the mute? Whoever's got the background noise.
Sorry, it might be me. I'll try again.
What is that background noise that you can't turn off?
Oh, it's my son on Discord behind me.
Just
And
be
you can't
vigilant with the
relocate into
mute
the
button
room?
if you wouldn't mind.
No,
I'm going to go live now.
we've got the computers in the same room.
It's not
I'll
a
ask
flat
him to-
Earth Discord.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Was, The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, P. Mars, Dawn Treader, Arwin and Alan. Good to have you all.
Yo, that was a bit of a long delay. So about that sunset, guys. Whatever the sun is or is not, obviously we don't agree that the sun is a physical thing. It could be a manifestation of something that's not physical. And in the absence of evidence that proves that it is physical, you guys, that's a problem that you really got to concede because you can't prove it's physical.
An absence of evidence, though.
However, my question in the break was, if the sun is 93 million miles away and the light from the sun takes about 9 minutes to get here, why is it that when the sun sets, as you say it does, why is it that we do not see a terminator line that passes in a westerly direction from north to south, which is the terminator line on your model? Why don't we see like a tidal wave of shade passing across the landscape in like a tidal wave? What we actually see is them dispersing into a smaller thing, and eventually it loses its light locally, but we do not see that north to south shade going towards the west 9 minutes after the sun sets. Why is that?
Atmosphere, as my guess.
You know the Terminator line on the Earth is meant to be a thing, right?
Yeah, but it's not like a hard line, is it? Like on Riddick or the Chronicles
it is
of
a
that
hard
film?
line. It is a hard line because the severity of the Earth denotes that there has to be a shade point.
I think what you're talking about, that happens sometimes on other planets in other systems.
Really?
They have it in sci-fi films as well, where it's suddenly cold and then there's the Terminator line just moves across the planet.
Yeah, so we don't see a Terminator line in a north to south direction heading west when the sun sets 9 minutes later. Why is that?
I don't know. I'm willing to give you that's a hole in the globe. I don't care.
Okay. Well, as long as you're prepared to
I don't even understand this.
Come on, you've seen the sun, you've seen the Terminator line on the moon, right?
Well, because atmosphere, that's my guess.
Because atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you want to believe that, that's fine. But it kind of goes against the idea of light being like straight lines thing.
Wouldn't refraction have something to do with it?
Yeah, you might have a few seconds either way, but ultimately it should be a 9 minute delay, a north to south Terminator line, transversing in a westerly direction, following the sun 9 minutes later, and everybody should see that this big Terminator line, like a tidal wave, would pass between us and the horizon, and it doesn't do it. We see
I've heard that on a space documentary.
Well, what's the alternative, Anthony?
That the sun's a local light source.
Yes, and?
Well, that's very contrary to what you think on a globe, with it being 93 million miles away and us traversing around it.
Pardon?
How low?
How close does it have to be to do
Who
that?
cares? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? There's no science for a flat Earth, right? I don't know all the answers. But what I do know is that we should see a Terminator line, and it should be 9.
Why isn't there any science on flat Earth?
Because we're told that we live on a ball.
Correct.
No, but there's plenty of flat Earthers now to develop your own science. Sure.
Yes, the scientific community backed the ball. They have done for the last 2,000 years, according to you. The whole body of science apparently backs the globe, right? Despite the fact there's no actual scientific evidence for the globe, apparently science backs it. We don't get any scientific evidence, though.
You're getting caught up with the globe. Your whole argument is caught up with the globe. You should be moving forward and developing your own science to explain these things. All you keep saying is the globe's wrong, the globe's wrong, the globe's wrong.
Yeah,
but you're not showing anything to show how the flat Earth could possibly work.
Because that's the current consensus. That's what you think and everybody else who lives in the Western world. They are told and educated that they live on a sphere. That's why we say there's no science for a flat Earth, because the people who teach incorrectly assert that we live on a sphere, regardless of the fact there is no scientific evidence to back that claim.
Don't worry about us.
Evidence.
Don't worry about us, Globies. Don't worry about what we're saying and doing. You go out and develop your own science to explain the observations that we have.
If there's no scientific evidence, does that mean you made it up?
You've made it up. You assume
This is what I said to Anthony before, that we need to change it. It's not that we don't have science. There's no scientific consensus. We don't have a body of flat Earth science. There's There's plenty of YouTube videos out there that have us doing
But they're all
and taking
They're
steps.
all contrary to each other. They all have.
That's
That,
yeah, but that's
there's no
part of the-
unified. There's
Right,
no
right.
unified
right,
a system in flat Earth to describe the observations that we observe.
right,
There's nothing
right.
unified. So you guys need to pull your fingers out. Stop whinging and complaining about the globe Earth. Stop being drama queens. Go out and freaking do something.
Yeah, that what you just said makes no. You made no point whatsoever. We're gonna have 10 different
Really?
flat. Hold on. We're gonna have 10 different. We are going to have 10 different flat Earth scientists go out and make observations and be wrong and contradict each other. That's
Well, how the
nature.
heck do you think? How do you think science started? How do you think the globe theory
I'm
came
not
to be?
disagreeing with that, Was. I'm not disagreeing with that. I don't have a problem with 10 guys having 10 different answers. You do.
Well,
You said you guys are all you guys said you are all contradicting each other. You're all
guys need to-
contradicting.
Well, you are. So you need to go together, work it all out, get your heads together, and put together something that explains all the observations that we see.
What is the benefit of creating an ad hoc hypothesis to explain?
Not hypothesis or whatever. You've got to go out there, make the observations, put down numbers, put down something, some system that we can use to make predictions around the flat Earth. So I'm in Australia, you're in England or America. You guys put together something that I can apply here in Australia and see the same thing.
Do you know anybody who would grant us perhaps maybe $10 million so that I could quit my job and pay for my family's livelihood while I study the scientific world?
What do you need $10 million for?
I'm saying let's give 10 of us $1 million each. What I'm saying is I'm a truck driver.
Why do you need money to do experiments?
Okay.
Same reason that NASA needs money for all their experiments, right?
Alan, I'll tell you.
No.
Could be a geodetic truck
Okay.
driver.
Hang on.
Let me
NASA's using the
let me just give you the hard and fast of it. I'm a truck driver and I'm on the road 12 hours a day. I don't have time to study the world. I'll tell you what, though, I want to.
I'm not saying you necessarily, mate. I'm a forklift driver and an operations manager. I don't have time either. So, that's why you got to put some dependence in other people's abilities.
Well, can I ask you, are you familiar with the FE core?
Oh, a little bit.
They're doing exactly what you're asking of us. They're dedicating resources, time, money, effort, intelligence, ideas, diversity, application of science to seeing whether or not this Earth has got any curvature.
What science?
The science that light moves in straight lines and doesn't bend like the way you guys say it does.
So are they using current scientific knowledge, or are they making their own up?
Hey Pete.
To explain the flat Earth?
I'm not an FE member. I don't know. But
Neither am I. That's why I'm asking.
Doing experiments that are showing that there is no perceivable, measurable, verifiable, repeatable curvature anywhere.
Would you trust their results, Anthony?
Are they also?
The thing is, they've got all the results are all published and they are repeatable with a little bit of time, money, and effort, and a lot bit of resources. But it often takes 4, 5, 6, 10 men to do the stuff that they're doing. I don't have access to it. Do I trust the things? Well, put it this way: I trust it more than I trust some science papers that tell us that there are hundreds of exoplanets. Does that put it into context for you?
Sure does.
Yeah.
So we do have people looking into it. The fact that we don't do it doesn't mean it isn't being done.
Are they putting resources into properly explaining how so many people could work together flawlessly to keep such a deception going?
It's not that hard with compartmentalization.
It goes beyond compartmentalization.
Tell you about.
No, it doesn't.
Let me
That's the thing about compartmentalization. It works very well with very vast groups of people, with very vast organizations.
How many astronauts have been into space?
How many astronauts have been inside a vacuum chamber and tested their spacesuit before they did?
Exactly. That's my point. So how many astronauts have been into space?
None.
0.
Okay. So how many are saying they've been into space?
Oh, what, 30?
I think there's about 530, isn't there?
530? Okay, 530 is good.
I think there's a bit around there. So that's at least 530 people lying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
M. Scott Veach.
And how many people? How many people? Hang on, I haven't finished.
Hang on, M. Scott Veach's
You
dad
get
claims to be an
one
astronaut.
after, you get a job for life. You get a nice seat in the Mason's house. What's the big deal?
Hang on. M. Scott Veach, right, claims that his dad was an astronaut, right? I claim that my dad was an ex-police officer. I can prove that my dad was an ex-police officer and went to work and arrested people with lots of evidence that he's collected over the time. But can M. Scott Veach's dad prove that he went to space?
M. Scott Veach's dad is still alive, Anthony. I caught him stabbed by the balls. I caught him.
Yeah, he keeps talking about him in the present.
So an astronaut starts off as a child. Obviously, we all do. And as a child, a 5-year-old kid thinks, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to be an astronaut." So he dedicates his young life, his adult life, to educating himself, learning to fly, joining whatever needs to be joined in order to get a pilot's license. And at what point?
In Australia, right?
Hang on, mate. I haven't finished.
I think they blocked it on.
And at what point?
Before, man.
Okay.
Before just regurgitating lies. So I mean,
I haven't finished my story.
No, you've said it all before. You've said everything before. You believe, right? You believe. None of us believe. There's no evidence for the belief. What are you going to do?
You believe something else now.
You've just completely side-railed what I was trying to say. Completely side-railed it.
Nathan, would you mind sharing my screen?
Why did you do that, man?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because, man, we've heard it all before. You're going to go through the rigmarole that these people tried and worked hard for their country. Would they all be lying in a communal basis? Come on.
Just give me a minute. Pete, give me a minute. Do you know who this guy is on screen? You might have to click my link in the chat.
Hang on a second.
Oh, dude, I figured out.
Werner von Braun. I've heard his name. Yeah, wasn't he a Nazi at one stage?
Yeah, he was a Nazi.
Hooked up by the Americans to start a rocket program.
Yeah, and do you know what role he did in the rocket program?
Made rockets.
Yeah, he was a rocket scientist, a rocket designer, and a rocket engineer, and a rocket scientist for NASA, right?
Yep.
Do you know what it is that you're looking at here?
Tombstone?
Headstone.
Headstone, that's the word, yeah.
Right, so a guy that's a rocket scientist for NASA is going to basically, A, adopt and accept the heliocentric model that we live in on a planet in a solar system, B, denounce anything to do with God, creation, or otherwise, because he's a rocket scientist. His principle,
why?
Because his principal and fundamental job tells him that we live in a solar system and rockets work in space and we can go to the moon.
But why does it have to disclude God?
Because it's the antithesis of being a rocket scientist. Would you not agree?
I disagree with you, but carry on.
No, hang on. It's important that we agree that the antithesis of being a rocket...
I can't agree.
So you think that it's acceptable that a rocket scientist that didn't...
No, I wouldn't agree either.
Hold on.
Right, so in that case, let's explain.
Anthony, let me just interject then. So both Alan and Was. So the Big Bang wasn't the creator of the universe. It didn't come from a Big Bang. It came from God. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying rocket scientists are quite free.
No.
God.
Which
no,
is the beginning.
Anthony, the screen band's here. Anthony, can you hear it?
Hold on, Alan.
I'm not saying that, Nathan. I'm just saying...
I just need to know what you are saying. So hold on, hold on. I just need a concise answer. Did the world start with a creator, God, or a Big Bang?
I don't know.
Well, your heliocentric model dictates that it started with a Big Bang.
Let me rephrase it for you. Do you believe in the 7 days of creation?
Right,
but I'm saying in the 7 days of creation. That is what it's about.
Not rephrasing it, changing the question.
Anthony's point is that the heliocentric model, which the NASA astronauts are validating, absolutely started with a Big Bang. That's what they are investigating. The cosmos.
Investigating, right? So they haven't got a definitive answer.
Yes, but
it could have been created by God.
They do.
It's a possibility.
You're not listening. They do. The Big Bang.
You're confusing me, Nathan.
I'm not confusing you. I'm asking you a question. Is it Big Bang or is it God? Because the NASA astronauts say it's Big Bang.
Wait a sec. I wonder if...
But that's not what Anthony said. Are you asking me something different to what Anthony said? Okay, let's go
Anthony
down
is
that
pointing
road.
out Werner von Braun's headstone and saying
Nathan, that's a false dichotomy.
Anthony, I can help you out, Anthony.
No, hang on. Let's just stay on track. We've got Werner von Braun, who's a scientist, and he builds rockets for a living. He gets paid a lot of money to do it for NASA, and by that fact, he accepts that we live in a solar system, because otherwise his work would be futile. He accepts that rockets can get to the moon, otherwise his work would be futile. He also denounces that God created anything, that we live in a construct, or anything to do with the religion side of stuff. So it seems unlikely that a guy would have a biblical reference on his headstone when he doesn't even agree with the Bible. But when you look at what that biblical reference says, it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." Now, I'm not a religious guy at all. I was brought up religious, but I'm not at this point. I realize that we must live in a construct, but I'm the antithesis of Werner von Braun. Why would a rocket scientist for NASA have a biblical reference on his stone, and the biblical reference basically denounces his whole entirety of his existence in his professional work, and denounces the fact that space is a thing? Answer it. Why would a rocket scientist have
Anthony,
this on his
how many
stone?
questions do you want to beg?
Maybe his priest put it on the stone for him. Who
Right,
knows?
so he would be he'd turn in his grave then, wouldn't he?
Maybe he didn't die. Maybe he's a fabricated character, Anthony.
You can believe in the Bible and the heliocentric model.
Hang on. Maybe it's a truth lie.
You're probably reading too much into it.
We know that the flat Earth has been rolled out for us. Who knows about this character von Braun? We know about the fake nature of all of this. Why would we take any of it seriously? I think the best way we should look at any of this is as a series of clues for us. When we do, I think we can make real progress.
Excellent.
So what stage through a scientist's life or a astronaut's life are they told it's all fake? At what point do you think they would be told that?
Well, Woz, let me ask you this. I think a lot of people are told that the Earth is flat from a very young age. Lewis Hackett, I think he was told, whatever family he was brought into, whatever sort of clique.
So you've just jumped from a few hundred people know it's fake to thousands on millions.
Listen, let's just go back to closure on the point. You were going to say that astronauts are told from a very young age, blah, 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 blah. And I've just shown you
wasn't.
You were talking about astronauts at a young age because I brought up M. Scott Beach. Is that not correct?
No, that is not correct.
That's what Pete said. That's what Pete said, Anthony.
Really?
My point got obfuscated.
Well, I'm asking you, why would a rocket scientist from NASA have anything to do with the glory of God on his headstone if space and NASA and solar systems and all this stuff that we're told is true?
Why not?
Who gives a flying rat's ass, Anthony?
Because it would be the antithesis.
Who gives a flying rat's ass?
Not the antithesis.
Was, you fucking idiot. You should was. This is one
No
of the
swearing,
top
Pete.
fucking rocket scientists.
No swearing.
So if you're taking everything
That's
as
one.
above board, hang on. If you're taking everything as above board, that this top rocket scientist would have this scriptures quote on his tombstone, you might say to yourself, I wonder, is this of any significance, right? Why wouldn't you ask that question?
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you this just real quick.
Maybe his family put it on without his permission.
Right.
I would roll over in my grave.
His mistress probably put it on there.
Maybe, but is there other possibilities?
Maybe he believed in both.
Anthony's point.
I mean, why are you even bringing up a dead guy's headstone? Why are you even bringing that up?
You guys think that astronauts go to the moon?
Night,
He didn't put it there.
afternoon delight.
You guys think rockets go to the moon?
Maybe they do.
Hey,
Rockets go
afternoon
rockets
This
go
guy that
high
builds
enough
them
to
tells
see
you
that it's not flat.
This guy that builds them's got on his headstone, which let's say he didn't put it there himself. Wouldn't he be turning in his grave at least? Would you at least accept
Let's say he
that
put it
one?
on there and he believed in both.
To turn in
You
your
can't
grave,
believe in
you
both.
can't
Of course
It's
you
one or
can.
the other.
Of course you can.
You can't be a creationist as well as a heliocentrist.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Anthony,
That's a false
there are plenty of
dichotomy.
scientists
Anthony,
that are
yes,
Christians.
yes, you can.
Metaphorical, man. It's just
You
a piece
can't
of
believe in
scripture.
creation and accept the solar
Anthony,
system as well.
There are plenty of scientists that are Christians. There's plenty of them.
No, name one. Show me one scientist.
I can't think of any off the top of my head. I have to go to Wikipedia like Arwen did
Well, that's
before.
what you're full of shit then, right?
Anthony,
No,
hold on. Hold on.
Either way.
Come on.
Let me jump in just real
Don't be a
quick.
drama queen, Anthony.
No, you guys believe that rockets work and space is a thing, right? Yet the main guy that built rockets shows that God's handiwork showeth the firmament shows God's handiwork. What are you guys talking about?
So that one tombstone lends hand to
This is
millions
a
of people.
stupid argument, Riley. You're stupid. Stop being an idiot.
Hang on, Mars.
You can believe whatever you want. But your own worshipper, your own king of rocket design tells you that God's done something up there, not him.
So that,
he didn't do
so
anything.
that one guy's tombstone denounces the hundreds and hundreds of people that have.
That could be the metaphorical hemisphere above you. This
Don't make
guy.
sense. Don't make sense, man. I'm sorry.
Put it this way: if you were Werner von
That's the most
Braun,
intelligent thing you've ever said, man. We live in a flat Earth. The spherical coordinate system applies to the barrier.
I didn't say it's flat. I said you see a hemisphere above
listen,
you.
listen. If you were Werner von Braun and you were the chief of national nautical design or whatever it was that he did in NASA and he built rockets, wouldn't you say something like, "I built Saturn V, the rocket that went to
Mate,
the moon"?
the guy was a Nazi. He could have been killed. Instead, he was kept alive for his brain to be used. I think you'd be very grateful.
The stories
you'd be very grateful of that fact.
I'm not a Bible lecturalist, but I might have scripture on my gravestone. So what?
Yeah, but if you were a rocket scientist for NASA, wouldn't you be putting something about going to the moon as your finest moment?
Anthony, you have to let that go, mate. It's getting a bit.
So what?
No, I'm not
It's
letting it go.
making sense.
You morons think that there's some nonsensical reason for it to be there.
And you've made up a stupid reason for
Well,
it.
you've made up some.
The fact that it exists is the reason why it's crazy for you guys.
We don't know why it exists.
Anthony, sorry,
Well, you're jumping to a conclusion.
No, you're just a bigot that's in denial.
A bigot?
Yeah.
When did I become a bigot?
Yeah, you're a bigot.
Can I
Why?
just...
What a bigot is?
Yeah, somebody that doesn't take on the views of other people.
On topic, Nathan, can you share my screen, please? When I
No, I'm not saying you're absolutely wrong.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it's a bit hard to believe.
No, how can it be hard to believe? It's the absolute opposite of his whole works career.
But why I'm saying it's hard. Hang on, guys. Why I'm saying it's hard to believe is because that's only one guy.
Who cares?
Now we've got
of his job.
We've established there's
what did your dad do before he retired?
My dad passed away when I was 14, and he was a fitter and turner.
A fitter? What?
A fitter and turner, like a mechanic, if you like.
A mechanic,
Build machine.
Right. So the
Build
antithesis of a mechanic would be having all the electromagnetic or the electric devices instead of mechanical devices, right?
What?
A mechanic doesn't like too much reliance on electronics, right? As far as I can tell.
What?
Simplicity.
Back then, there wasn't many electronics. I'm not sure where you're going.
Now, I'm going to the opposite of whatever job your dad did. The opposite of it. Your dad wouldn't put on his tombstone.
It's not the opposite. The Bible's not the opposite of space travel.
Of course it is, you moron.
One's a religion. One's a thing
religion.
you do with your life.
One's a religion. The other one's a religion too.
No.
But Anthony, what did you say about all the science?
You can't have a rocket scientist declaring the glory of God on his headstone if you think that the guy's telling you the truth. Don't be a moron.
Yeah, it would be
so silly.
It would be like having.
Wake up, boys. This is a massive clue for you.
You're more intelligent than this, Riley.
No, the fact that headstone exists, guys. Come on, you can't reject it.
They're winding you up, Anthony. They're winding you up, man.
Yeah, of course they are.
I gave you it's a cool little point. One quote.
Sure, but it's such a big, powerful point.
It's an anomaly.
Did you know why
an anomaly? Oh, right. So the rock scientist is an anomaly. His headstone's an anomaly. Everything's an anomaly, then, isn't it? So the sunsets are an anomaly.
No, I said that, Anthony. I said that. My
it's just one guy.
My point was, it would be like Hugh Hefner's headstone saying, "You shall not commit sexual immorality."
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
But it only makes no sense if you're a baller. If you're on my side of the fence, it's blatantly, obviously.
I agree.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense.
Nonsensical stuff, right?
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense or anything like that. All I'm saying is it's one guy. Now
yeah,
we've
but
got
it's who that guy is.
Hang on.
Who that guy is.
Oh, yeah. According to that logic, the entire NASA apparatus and everyone, they all have to admit simultaneously, yeah, it's all fake. And you know what?
This one guy with a headstone.
When they did.
This one guy with a headstone that's
No. Let's refer to him as the rocket scientist, the chief rocket scientist from NASA.
Okay, so the chief rocket scientist for NASA with a dubious headstone, has spurred hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people to knowingly lie and deceive.
Oh no, I'm not saying he's responsible for the deceit. What I'm saying is it's tipping his cap that everything that he spent his life doing was nonsense.
Right, but then the hundreds and thousands of people after him are also doing it. what's going on there.
Out, dude. I mean, like you said, astronauts are taught from a very early age, are they not?
I did not say that. Come on, I did not say that.
All right, well,
I was cut off.
Put it this way. Let's go back to what I said at the beginning. My dad was a cop, and he's now retired. But I can prove that he was a cop because I've got proof of it. I've got his epaulets, I've got his truncheon, I've got his handcuffs, and I can present them if I had to. But can M. Scott Veach know that his dad went to space?
Yeah, he's got a spacesuit and everything. Just shows you the spacesuit, and that's job done.
No, it's not.
Yes, that's not what I'm saying.
Scott Veach has a spacesuit?
Really? A spacesuit, man.
That's cool. Let's ask him to actually go into a vacuum chamber with it. He can test it for us.
That's not what I'm saying at all. You're missing what
awesome.
I'm saying.
If he has a spacesuit, then let's make him go into a vacuum chamber and prove that he actually believes.
Can I share?
Sometimes you are a spacesuit.
Okay, you guys are going to keep wrapping around in circles. Can I share a picture?
No, you're running around in circles. I'm trying to go in straight lines, Pete.
Can I share a picture that Sandra Coolpix 900 sent me?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
Is that all right? I don't need these fucking clowns. Excuse my language.
Go on, Pete. Let's entertain you. You won't entertain me. I'll entertain you. Come on.
I've heard everything you have to say before, man. The conspiracy's too big. How are they?
What a buffoon.
Yeah.
What did I say, Pete? What did I say?
Yeah, the conspiracy is too big. How would they manage it? People have spent their whole lives invested in what they believe to be truth. How would they carry the lie?
Let's talk.
How do I know you're
they
not
have people like these Globers here that carry their life for them, and they don't even know it.
Exactly, Arwen. Arwen, you'd be very interested in this because I know you know.
Go on, show, Pete. Come on. Put it up screen. Come on.
You know about Sandra.
Come on,
Pete. Shut
up, guys.
Shut up.
Pete. Come on, Pete. Flop it out, mate. Flop it out. Let's see.
We're talking about the sun. We already talked about the sun being Aris Darkus. Now, Sandra Coolpix posted this picture to me, and immediately I recognized it, right? So what I have done is, if you can share my screen, can you see my screen?
Oh, Christ.
Shut up, Alan.
Look at that.
Shut up.
Yeah. Shut up a minute. You're only looking for indications to begin with, Alan. This is a picture Sandra posted to me of an anomalous sun that she captured. Immediately I recognized it.
Anomalous.
I recognized it, and I compared it. On the left here, we have something on the moon, which is created Copernicus. On the right, then we have a capture of the sun.
I'd also see an electricity line obstructing that.
You can show me later on Discord, Pete, if you want.
Yeah, but hang on, and this is for Arwen or anyone else who's interested in this topic. Sandra could see the correlation straight away. I already knew the match because I know that Aristarchus is the sun. It's also the moon, all the different craters.
Can you stop it? Stop saying his name repeatedly while he's talking. I didn't hear a word of that.
I'm trying to ask him something.
Let me finish what I have to say, man.
Oh, okay. I won't cut you off like you did me then. Go on.
That's all. I can produce much better comparisons here because what we need to do is go to high altitude balloon footages to see the sun as it emanates, right? As it manifests outside of atmospheric conditions. And when you do, you find this particular fixed pattern associated with it, which we can match up to pretty much all the craters on the moon, but especially one crater, which is Aristarchus. So when you talk about you don't know what the sun is, well, I know what the sun is. The sun is Aristarchus, right? The moon is Aristarchus. The stars are Aristarchus. We're dealing with Arwen, and I'd say this especially to you. We're dealing with one source as it, like through a diamond, Lucy in the sky with diamonds, as it manifests. And that source is Aristarchus itself. So
he puts you to shame, Arwen, Pete.
Who knows, I think your theory, Pete, is a lot more plausible than the heliocentric model theory. Well, I don't know if it's true, but it sounds a lot more plausible to be considering that the heavenly bodies are purely holographic optical phenomena.
So,
there could be some kind of origin source, and maybe that is Aristarchus. Who knows?
It is an Aristarchus, right? So when we look at the moon, we're told, right, and I mentioned this before, Arwen, how come at the tip of every flat earther's tongue isn't this character Aristarchus of Samos, right? We find out that he is the first 2,500 years ago to put the sun at the center and have a spherical earth rotating around alongside spherical planets. So we never get the ballers would have been throwing it down your throat that this is established science going back 2,500 years. Yet we never hear of him. We always revert back to Copernicus, Aristarchus, right? So all the clues are there for us, and that's what I say about von Braun. He's an actor. You just follow the clues. Don't take any of it literally. Same with Admiral Byrd, Richard E. Byrd, Dick E. Byrd, 88, only 8.
Werner von Braun was basically an enslaved scientist.
Pete, when you
He had
finish
to.
speaking,
If he didn't cooperate with the American government, they would have tried and executed him.
Yeah, but he
was a slave. So he was forced to use his genius for the American deception and the moon landing.
Darwin, he may well have been an enslaved scientist, but he was an enslaved scientist that believed in God.
Well, yes, could be. Or he could have just put that thing there on his tombstone just to, at the last minute, after there were no more consequences because he was dead, just put it in their face like, see, you all lied to us.
Hey,
Just
Pete, I like your beard.
as a last act of resistance.
Nice one, man. Nice one, Waz. Appreciate that. You've more balls than Alan anyway. You never see Alan's face.
It's a fine line, mate.
Holy shit, Waz is a person.
You have no fear that I'm going to come after you anyway, man, you know.
Yeah, looking fresh, Pete, today.
Yeah, cheers, man.
I'm real.
Lovely weather here. You know?
That doesn't mean you can
I
show
just had
you.
a haircut too. Do you like it? And I had my beard trimmed.
Nice, yeah, nice. Nice look about you there.
Thank you. So anyway, Pete, that picture you put up before, was that you had a picture of the moon on the left, and was that our sun on the right?
Yeah, it was a capture of Coolpix 900, who, alongside Ranty, takes many long-distance captures.
So it's the sun that we see, right?
Right, but it was an anomalous sun.
It wasn't with a sun filter, though.
What other suns are there?
I don't think it was with a sun filter, but I don't think...
I'm just trying to clarify that, Anthony.
The sun filter, all the sun filter...
Only one sun.
Fills in the area, so it makes everything look. It makes the sun look like the most spherical body in the universe, is what we're told it is, or not the universe, or whatever, in our system. But no, that's not true. When you go above the high altitude balloon, when you go above the atmosphere with high altitude balloon footages, you see this specific pattern, repeatable pattern, again and again, emanating from the sun. So this is part and parcel of the sun itself. And I've clarified this to myself. I have loads of pictures here I could show. I'm not going to go into it. But the point is, this is a pattern associated with the sun. It's not a sun glare. Different captures from different sides of the world using different cameras have captured the same pattern. And what's more, this pattern can be matched back to its source. It's like the Batman light. If I showed you the Batman torch and I showed you a picture on the wall of the Batman expression, well, you'd be able to match up the two, right? Especially the more intricate the design, the more certain and sure you could be that you're dealing with one and the same. So the sun is Aristarchus. Yeah, this is known. Aristarchus is an anagram of Christ's aura. Think about it. Christ is the sun. Once we make our way beyond a certain sort of level of thinking, you know, we come by that whole idea.
Interesting philosophical approach.
Keep talking, Pete. I don't have to say anything, mate.
Man, it's not a philosophical approach, Armin. For the first time, we can prove all of this. You can go out. I told you, you can go out with your camera and capture. You can go out with your camera with the clouds, and Nathan has some excellent examples here. I've been noticing it, Nathan, that when you show the clouds in the sunset, some excellent examples, if you've been paying attention, of these repeating patterns in the clouds. Now, if there's some energy being expressing through a medium, that's going to leave an imprint, right? Leave an imprint. This is what we see when we look at the gaping mouth in the clouds. And NASA.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Mark, my point is that it can all be traced back to the source, and as I say, the source is Aristarchus, the one and only creator there is.
Yeah, there's just one slight difficulty, and that is that the moon included is also a light-based phenomena. So
there's also
the Aristarchus crater right there may be, according to your theory, the most pure manifestation of the original source that reflects everything, but we don't know where that, if there is a physical origin of it, if it does exist, we still don't know where, because it only reflects, according to the Aristarchus theory, all into the heavenly bodies, of which are non-physical. So where is that source coming from, according to you?
The source is Mount Meru, if you want to call it. I call it the decapitated tree of life, right?
That is very interesting. That's very interesting. If it is Mount Meru.
Armin, can I respond to you, please? The source is at the north center. This is where all emanations come from. Now, if you think about what we do at Christmas time, we take a decapitated tree, we put it on an X. X marks the spot. X is also 1 and 0, right? Which is the material, immaterial, or the creator, all there is.
Decapitated tree.
We artificially light it up. So this
is just a tree.
Looking at, I call Aristarchus the decapitated tree of life.
World tree.
If you look at the moon, you can see it in its reflected form. The moon itself is a reflection of the face of the sun. Remember that we are under a contoured, watery, electromagnetic, mirror-like barrier. So this is where all of these different reflected effects.
Well, I've heard this theory before. It is basically that the world tree Yggdrasil was in ancient times cut down, and that created all the heavenly bodies.
Yeah.
So this kind of reflects that, pun intended.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah.
Crystalline.
The only way to really find out is to get there and then see the cut down world tree and see if it does indeed match the shape of Aristarchus, as you claim.
I think we will. I think we can get there, but in the meantime, you can do certain things to prove that this is true to yourself. You can, as I said, you can look at it with your camera. You can capture the.
Yeah, I know, but it's not really my obsession.
Well, I'm not saying you can. I'm saying one can.
No, you will definitely. I'm sure of it.
Well, listen,
So
I've done it for
and
myself.
Arwen show.
All I'm saying is when you recognize, it doesn't matter why, if you're in Australia, you'll see these patterns in the clouds as well. Now you can match them up to Aristarchus. You can do the same with the moon. When we look at the moon, let me tell you something phenomenal. When we look at the moon, we are looking at the same crater as it kaleidoscopically reflects.
So we've heard all this before.
I know it sounds
It was.
Yep.
Was, yeah.
I'm going to say it back to you. We've heard all this before.
Yeah, we've heard all of your bullshit before as well.
Pete,
keep repeating it anyway.
I know you don't give a fuck about it. Excuse me. You don't.
Pete, I've heard you on Discord explaining this. I have heard it before, actually.
Right. So that's all I'm saying. For anyone who hasn't heard it, you can take an interest in the clouds. Look at how much time you put into flat Earth. Now you can go out and look at the moon. You can make these comparisons. I found the Milky Way on the moon last year. I've moved on from that. I know for certain that's there. I've also found the Milky Way has a little swathe around the central core of Aristarchus. This is what's happening. We have a central stencil, if you will, energy projecting through it, and then we're seeing the effects or manifestations of the stencil. Can I just say one more thing?
No.
When we talk about light and heat, as you mentioned earlier on regarding the sun, light and heat are effects. This is why science is a clue for us. They tell us about the duality of light, the wave energy, or wave particle duality. Well, the wave energy, the divine energy, if you will, is coming from Aristarchus, right? And what we experience as light and heat is the interaction between this energy and the water particulation everywhere. It's all about water. We live under, very last thing, Arwen, gravity is a pushing force, not a pulling force. Everything is inverted. There is a force holding back the waters beyond. We live in a broken system. That force was never meant for us, so we are underneath that reactionary force. That's what we call gravity. Thank you.
All right, if you say so. Yeah, I am not ready to draw a conclusion that reaches that far. I'm just saying we do not know if it is pulling or pushing. It is just moving that way. It divides the heavy from the light. What causes it is an open book.
We can think about it though, Arwen. It
could be all kinds of things.
Well, we think about the inundation, right? The flood. No, I don't think anyone.
Pete. If you think about anything long enough, it'll make sense.
No, hang on. Do you deny a flood then was at what do you call it, point in time, a particular point in past time? Do you deny a massive inundation of the land?
Yeah, like an ice age.
Well, I think Martin.
Not an ice age, a flood.
Martin Leake has been doing that.
Yeah.
So after the ice age.
Now, Martin Liedtke has treated the mud flood, which was a later event.
Right.
There was originally a big flood, a completely water-engulfing flood that basically engulfed everything and then rescinded again. And there was a mud flood in the late Renaissance, early industrial age as well. It was very specifically mud, and it didn't cover the entire world, but mostly the northern hemisphere, the Europe and Northern America.
This is what I say about the dodo. The dodo bird never existed. Right? If you imagine a big bucket full of stones, right, and you fill it with water, that's going to have a changing face. And if you were to draw that face, well, I say this is what you get the dodo. Think of the Gleason's map that was presented as waiting at the door of flat Earth for us, right? If you rotated, so Australia's at the bottom. That's the way I'm on Northern Europe, used to seeing all maps I've ever seen in my life. Then if you imagine the water being drained out, a particular bird jumps out, which is the dodo. When you look into the narrative of the dodo, it's absolutely ridiculous. Right?
It is a very weird story about the dodo.
So that's
Nathan and Anthony. Why aren't you asking for scientific proof of all of this? How come he's not getting
He's not claiming scientific proof.
No, I'm telling you where I'm at in my understanding. That's all was. And I can prove certain things. Actually, I can prove a lot of things.
You can?
Yeah, not scientifically though. But it doesn't really matter because it's proof to him, and I find his story a lot more credible than yours.
What's the
observations? Do observations account for anything, Arwen?
Well,
They only count for something if you beg the question with everything and assume an entire model just based on a couple of observations.
What does that even mean?
What about Ranty's photos? I reckon Ranty's photos are pretty good.
Yeah.
Alan doesn't necessarily agree with me, but I reckon he's done some good photos there. Good work, Ranty. But their observations, I mean, how do they not account for anything? What's going on? I don't understand you, Owen.
For something.
Well, hang on. They failed to account for something. They failed to account for the bulge and the curvature that we're supposed to have.
So they do account for something then?
No, they fail to account for something. They fail to account for something.
Observations in general?
No, the observations that Ranty's made, they fail to account for or show any obstruction or curvature whatsoever.
Okay, cool. So what about observations in general?
Not cool. Not cool. You guys believe we live in a ball. You can't say cool when I'm telling you that your nonsense is the opposite of what reality is.
No, I'm saying, I agree that you have your
loads of evidence that disproves your model and your concept. These observations should not be possible.
But not enough.
You ignore them very conveniently and move on to other observations while completely ignoring that these observations make the assumption that you have completely impossible.
We've got verified and repeatable
ignoring
proof of
evidence,
space.
literally ignoring evidence.
But we've got verified and repeatable proof of space.
Yeah, and we got verifiable, repeatable proof that the Earth is flat, and you're ignoring.
So we're at an impasse then, aren't we?
Yeah, but we can actually make that evidence. We can personally make that evidence. Ranty personally goes to that beach and he makes that evidence. You don't go to space and make your evidence. You got a specific group of people doing that for you, and you believe in them.
Owen, you don't do anything.
I don't have the equipment to go to space. I don't even have the equipment to do what Ranty does. So,
Yeah, but why don't you analyze tax dollars? You got plenty of tax dollars to provide.
Why don't you analyze Ranty's pictures and talk about a mirrored?
I don't need to. You guys have.
Why don't you analyze Ranty's pictures and talk about a mirrored water layer and be open to changing your mind? Are you honest, man?
Are you honest?
Yes, I am honest.
Are you really?
Yes, I am really honest. One of the fucking few people around here who are honest. I don't mean here in general, specifically in Flat Earth. The whole arena has been set up for us. We think the games just began recently. These games are going on since the beginning of time.
You honestly believe that millions of people can...
Let me tell you something. Our time in terms of this broken Earth begins, for me, 420 years ago with the discovery of the dodo. Again, the dodo is the map of the changing face of the Earth, right?
All right.
Do you want me to say right? Right.
I'm saying right. I'm saying right. It's where I'm coming from. This is why I'm sort of connecting all the landscape was. But what have you come to change your mind about? What have you come to change your mind about? You were in Australia now, down under, and I made a great realization yesterday, Arwen. I'll maybe talk to you about that. But everything is inverted. We know the Earth is flat, so the spherical coordinate system and all its divisions applies to the sky. The actual contour of the Earth, the actual confines of the Earth are oval shape. So Neil deGrasse Tycho's son, when he was giving us these clues, wasn't far off. We have to do something before we get to the truth. The Earth is an oblate spheroid, but it's a flattened down.
So if I can't
No, I don't think so. I think the Earth is flat, but the heavens are a globe. And the way they are distributed in their coordinates suggest that the Earth could, if you beg the question, be a globe. If you take the positions of the heavenly bodies all literal and not as an optical phenomena that just waves around you as a globe, and that is the trick. The heavens are a globe, the Earth is flat.
I agree, I said that.
What about the other people that have addressed Ranty's video, photographs and videos?
No one has done it satisfactorily. We know the Earth is flat. We know anything to do with a spinning core.
There we go, satisfactory.
We don't have to get engaged with it.
So you need satisfaction.
Not to prove anything to you, Waz, or Dawn here, or Alan.
It's not about proving anything. It's just about...
You don't know about the mirrored water layer. And I'll tell you something, unless you know about the mirrored water layer and what's going on when you look out over water, over distance, at sunrise and sunset, you have no hope of understanding what's going on here. You're just going to say what you see, which is what Alan and Dawn pretend to do, and say, well, the sun is behind the horizon, which is 3 miles away.
No, you guys are saying it's observably and something or rather flat.
Yeah, obviously and observably flat, because we see stuff on the horizon that the globers say is not there, and we see it because it's a mirage.
Tuft of trees.
Yeah, you have to give into a massive deception where hundreds of thousands of people are lying in order to believe.
Yeah, it's so terrible,
that.
isn't it? So terrible that all these people are lying. You just can't accept it, can you?
You're just being a drama queen.
You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to decry NASA at all. You can just look at the world around you. That's the point. When we look at the world, we go, look at that lighthouse, isn't that interesting? Look at that building, isn't that interesting? You guys say, you can't actually see that. It's not really there. Actually, there's an Earth curve that you can't see blocking your view of it. Actually, it's behind a massive drop. Actually, if we ignore perspective, it's falling away from you at 8 inches per mile squared. That's what you say. We just see a building. You say it's not there. You guys are telling us that we have to buy a deception, and we're saying, no, you don't have to look at NASA. You don't have to do anything. Just look at the world around you. It's obviously flat.
It's not just NASA.
I'm just saying you don't have to look at NASA. You don't have to look at anybody.
You've got other countries. You've got private sector.
My point is,
unofficial space bodies.
You mean other branches? Other branches.
My point is that I don't watch TV. There's no...
Exactly, Arwen. Exactly.
What did you say, Arwen?
Where's your evidence of that? Where's your proof?
Well, it's very simple. NASA started it, and then the other space agency came into being, guided by NASA.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did, Alan.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. What's the first space agency in the world?
China?
What's the first space agency in the world that actually did things?
So China and Russia was guided by NASA?
China?
Is that what you're saying?
No, China hasn't done anything.
If you think that everything
China has only started doing stuff in the 90s.
You're deluded. It's all a show. It's all a show put on by the elites to get what they want.
Ranty, you have no evidence or proof of that. This is just your words.
Said a painter and decorator.
Prove it. You go ahead.
No, you have to prove it. It's your claim that's all
fake. Plenty of evidence out there that proves exactly what I've just said.
It's not proof, Ranty. Come on.
Well, what's your proof? Where's the looming? Where's this proof of a looming building over a hill?
There's verified
I want you to show me a house being loomed up over a hill.
There's verified and repeatable proof of space.
No, there isn't. Where have you ever been to space? Have you verified space was? Well, let's see if was actually lies here, because we've had a lot of globers that come on and assert this, that they can go and verify space. So let's ask you a direct question. Have you been in verified space was?
No.
Right, so it's not verified by you at all.
Correct.
Right, so let's not assert that it's easy to verify space. It isn't. You have to take their word for it.
I didn't say it was easy.
Well, it's not possible. It's not easy or difficult. It's impossible. You can't verify space. I can't verify space. No one on this panel can verify space. We have to take their word for it.
So something we can't do as a group is impossible. Is that what you're saying?
No, I said that you don't have to pay any attention whatsoever to NASA. I don't pay attention to them, but when I go out and actually look at the world, it's obviously and observably flat. Now, you're taking NASA as your proof of the globe, and you can do that if you choose to. You're telling us that we have to disprove NASA, and I'm saying, no, I can just look at the world around me and observe that it's flat.
No.
I mean, no. Yeah. Ranty goes out, takes pictures, and it's flat. Consistently flat. There's no bulge blocking your view. That's got sod all to do with NASA. That's something you can do and you can verify. If you want to hop on a plane and check what Ranty's doing, or do it in your own vicinity, you can.
It's not just NASA, mate.
I'm saying you don't need to pay attention to NASA. How many times have I got to say you don't need NASA? Forget NASA. Let's forget space altogether. Let's keep our feet firmly on the Earth we are discussing. Let's not worry about any of that nonsense, because we're not doing it. None of us are. But we have got cameras, and we can have a look at the world around us. And it's obviously and observably flat.
Yeah.
Just because you can't do it, it doesn't mean it's nonsense, mate. Come on.
All right, so show me that the unicorns that are in my garage aren't real.
Pardon?
Show me the unicorns that I've kept in my garage. I've got unicorns. You're going to disprove that?
What the freaking hell has unicorns got to do with space?
Because me having to disprove your assertion is horseshit. I don't have to disprove space. You have to get my tongue around it. You have to provide proof of your assertion, which is space.
So you're saying that because no one on this panel can go and verify proof, get verified proof of space.
Listen to
saying
yourself.
That's fake.
Listen to yourself. How are we supposed to go to space?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So exactly, we should just take it on faith because we can't go. All right, well, you can't get in my garage. So you're going to take it on faith that I've got unicorns, or are you going to provide some actual disproving proof? You're going to disprove my unicorns? Are you going to disprove them? What's your evidence that my unicorns don't exist?
Because you're an idiot.
Sorry, what's your evidence? That's not a rebuttal, Alan. What's your evidence that my unicorns don't exist?
That's not as.
I'm not talking about unicorns. I'm talking about verified, repeatable proof of space.
You haven't got any. That's what I just asked you. Have you gone out and verified and repeated space? No, was the answer. So we're not talking about that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the opposite of that. We're talking about something we cannot verify, we have not done, we will never do, and the same principle applies to unicorns. Disprove my unicorns.
Unicorns apparently tasted as good as dodo.
Nah.
That doesn't disprove my unicorns, Pete.
No?
I'm not talking about unicorns, mate.
Yeah, just take it on faith, like you do with NASA. Just take it on faith. I say I've got unicorns. So unless you've got some damn good evidence to disprove it, you have to take it on faith.
Well, you haven't got any evidence to disprove it, so...
Warren,
oh, well, there we go. So literally you're actually going to use my farcical standard of proof like it's justifiable. So in that case, you believe in unicorns, you absolute retard.
What the hell are you saying about unicorns?
Unicorns are something that you are being challenged to disprove.
You are being challenged to prove.
Nathan, do you trust your mechanic when you take your car to...
Alan, shut up. Woz is about to have the penny drop.
No, he hasn't. Do you trust your
Well,
mechanic?
maybe. We don't know quite how stupid he is, but we're about to find out if you'll shut up long enough, Alan.
No.
Shut up, Alan.
Okay, right, well, I'll kick you out then. Bye, Alan.
Jump in.
I was already... I already did.
I'll kick Alan.
Right, Woz. So, Woz, are you going to provide evidence to disprove my unicorns?
Nope. Are you going to provide evidence to disprove space?
No, so we're in agreement then.
Okay.
Unicorns are real.
We're at an impasse. You can't prove it. I can't prove it.
Oh, right. So we should just accept
Prove
unicorns
it to me.
then,
I
Woz?
can't prove it to you.
So you're going to accept that unicorns are real then by the same standards?
You can't prove it to me. I can't prove it to you. So we're at
So
an
if
impasse.
you can't disprove
no, it's not an impasse. It's a
unicorns...
logical fallacy.
Yeah, you conceded.
It's a lot of
Show
bullshit.
me a looming building. Show me you doing an experiment where you can loom a house up over a hill. Show
What's
me
that got to do
an
with
experiment of that actually happening.
These are real things. We're not talking about space. That's the point. Was try and listen. We can actually go out and verify and validate and repeat things here on the ground. Forget NASA. You're not validating anything to do with what they do.
Until you can prove a massive deception, everything you were looking at and describing as the way you see it.
Really? So until you can disprove the unicorns in my garage, unicorns are real, dumbass.
Right. And can I say, Nathan, do you believe that the dodo bird was a real bird? It had a real existence?
No idea, mate. Don't ask me about dodo birds.
Hang on, what do you mean no
Jeez.
idea? Every school child in the
mate.
world pretty much is told about the reality of the dodo bird, the dumbness of the bird who had no fear of the human invaders, if you will, who ate the shit out of it. So do you believe the story is real? Do you accept history or not?
Is it real?
Yeah, was it real? Did it have a real existence?
It's been recorded. What's that got to do?
Really?
Like, I ask you a question. It's a yes or no. So you believe in the reality at a previous time of a bird called the dodo bird that's presented to us, right?
Why not?
Right. Okay, that's all I asked you in the first place, but you gave a sort of confusing answer. So I know categorically that the dodo bird didn't exist, and that can be proven in a sense. If you can say that the negative can be proven, but it can be proven that the story attached to the dodo is a complete fabrication and is much richer in a deeper, more hidden meaning. As I mentioned already, the changing face of the earth. But beyond that as well, we are divided in two, male from female, left brain from right brain. That's what the dodo represents. Do is two in Irish. But anyway, these are things you can prove to yourself. As the argument was because you can't deny unicorns. Same amount of evidence as there is for your space.
and you can't prove a massive deception.
Don't care. Don't need to prove anything to you, man. You should be proving
Neither
it.
do I.
Yeah.
I don't
Every
need to prove
ball
anything to you.
every day should be asking themselves,
Hold on,
how
Pete.
am I
You're
going
right,
to try
was.
and disprove
That's
the
your
spinning ball
standard.
earth now?
Pete,
Because
hold on.
of course,
Pete,
my
Pete,
children's
Pete,
future
Pete.
rely on this, right?
Pete, hold
my
on.
reality relies
Please,
on
just
this.
give me a second.
And
It
even though
was.
I come from
That's right,
nothing,
Pete.
even though I come from a big
Can't
bang
shut
where
up.
there's no primal force moving anything, my time now is precious, and I don't want to be engrossed in lies, right? So you should be trying to disprove this at every hand's turn. And of course, we know that the minute you try to disprove the ball or the spinning ball earth, you'll be able to do it, right?
Right, Pete, thanks. You don't have to believe anything, but you choose to believe NASA.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
You take their word for it.
You take their word
the
for it.
space stuff, so yeah, you have to. Because it is the only evidence you have for it. You have to take their word for it. You have
He's
to
going to
believe
resort
them.
to telling us it's verified yet again, when we have already tied down that none of us are verifying any of this crap. When we talk about the fact we can verify stuff on the ground, then we go to maths. It's just your cognitive dissonance. That's all this was.
I missed all of that. Owen was talking.
Ah, wonderful. You can choose to believe whatever you like. Yeah? You choose to believe NASA with no verification from you.
Not just NASA, but go on.
Well, you can choose to believe them if you want to. Good for you. But you don't verify it. You take it on faith. I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I don't have to believe a word they say. I don't pay any attention to NASA at all.
You take it on faith that there's a massive deception.
No, I don't. I don't need to pay attention to any of that. I keep telling you. I don't even watch TV. I don't care. But when I look at the world, it's obviously flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's verifiable proof and repeatable proof by not just NASA, but hundreds and thousands of...
You keep saying this. It's doing my head in. Every time you say there's repeatable, verifiable proof from NASA, you haven't got any of it.
Not NASA.
What have you done to verify anything that you will now list to do with space? What have you done? The answer's nothing. You can't.
That's right.
Right. So stop saying that you've got verified proof from NASA. You haven't.
Yeah,
it's not from NASA.
We do have proof of deception.
Anything space related that you believe. It's just your belief. You just take it on faith.
Because they were the
just
first.
Believe them.
So they're not the only now. They might have been the first, but they're not the only.
Do you know, Wells, we put up with people like you being in just because we want a show, but you're not contributing anything at all.
I'm trying to get you guys to convince me of a massive deception.
Absolutely not. It's like in the schoolyard. It's like you have to talk to every child who comes out with the most obnoxious of things. You don't. You just brush them off.
Where's the deception?
People like Waz or Alan or Dawn.
I can give you an example of a deception. Even within the cosmogony, if you assume space.
Hang on, Alan. At what stage through an astronaut's career, beginning as a child, is he told it's a deception? And what guarantees that person have they got that person is not going to
Let me answer that question,
None of us
please.
know an astronaut was.
Imagine they were led into a secret that humanity, their fellow man, were engaged in this massive deception that was being... Hang on, please.
At what age?
Hang on, Waz, please. Like, when you talk, I have to stop, and then anyway. So imagine that they were offered to play their part in the sort of awakening of mankind. I think this is why we're going to flat Earth now and reconsidering the whole nature of our reality. Would you participate in terms of a greater, more nobler goal in yourself in the awakening of mankind and a bringing together of mankind towards ultimate truth? Would you? Would you participate in a lie in that sense? I think I would, right? I think we all would. What do you reckon? That's a possibility. I'm not saying that that's so. It is a possibility, though, right?
That there's a big lie.
Man.
Hey, Waz.
Way out of it.
Hey, Waz. Do you know? You ever heard of like an undercover spy, like maybe a hitman or something like that?
Like Get Smart, Maxwell Smart.
Like a spy that has to go and kill somebody. Now, let me ask you something. Does that spy, does he ask the person that pays him, why am I killing him?
No. Oh, well, I don't know. Probably not.
He just does what he's told, right?
Yeah. But
Okay.
the person that's telling him to kill that other person, how many of them are there?
I mean, I don't know. I was just trying to give you an example.
How's the organization work at that level?
It's on a need-to-know basis. Listen,
Are you making the comparison that the spy that's going out to kill someone is an astronaut, or the person above the astronaut?
I'm making the comparison that these people are in the military. These people are told what to do, and they're not. It's not above their pay grade to ask why.
Yes, but the people that are in that pay grade, how many are there?
Yeah.
Not very many.
There's some unifying theme.
Not many. At least 500
astronauts
astronauts.
in the world knows about chemtrails. There's some unifying theme that's going on, and whatever the greater story is now, hang on, Waz, we are now becoming aware of it somewhat. I hope every individual here who has come to Flat Earth has realized that you are the true power. I'm king of era here, right? As is all my fellow countrymen and women and children. We are all born the highest authority on the land. So the point is, a different story is unraveling, Waz, and you should go away and do some thinking yourself, as opposed to believing. And I know you're only probably playing a part anyway, like the rest. You know the Earth is flat and stationary.
Sorry, Waz, I had to mute you because you keep saying yes during people's talking, and it cuts the gate.
Yeah, no.
Well, I'm trying to say things and people cut me off, so the gate swings both ways.
You're just saying the same things. You can't believe it. That's all you're saying.
And can I just say the same things as well?
Tell me who you are, and tell me what type of experiences you are having here, and tell me you can believe that, because it's miraculous when you sit down and think about it beyond measure. You think you have everything figured out, but you can't think beyond the basic level as you're presenting yourself here. Waz, that's what I'm saying. It's very childish.
Could I just
shouldn't offend children in that sense? Children know everything.
Here we go.
Guys, can I just point something out before? I tried to cite Waz's words to do with the astronauts being trained from a young age. And
that's not what I said.
One was corrected me saying that wasn't what he said, but he just said it like 2 minutes ago, saying the same thing. You asked at what point during an astronaut's training, derp, and I thought he did bloody say that before. So he did say that.
Okay, that's a misunderstanding. That's not how it was meant to have come across to you, Anthony.
So what was it you were saying about astronauts in the training?
At what point, through a person deciding to become an astronaut, are they told it's all fake?
They're probably never told. They're probably told with a nod, and literally, we'll pay you a lot of money to keep the secret. But if you let the secret go, you'll be dead in an accidental an airline crash in a light aircraft or something of that nature. Anybody that steps out of line, they're going to get killed.
So they've got a few hundred people that they've done this to. All right, okay.
Right. So let me put it to you this way. Like I said, I can prove that my dad was a police officer, but can M. Scott Veitch prove that his dad was an astronaut and went to space?
Yeah, and where's M. Scott Veitch's face? We don't see his face, right? We should see his face. His face is in the public. His dad was a public.
That's my argument.
Representative.
Yeah, he does. It's easy to find what M. Scott Veitch looks like, so that's just not true, Pete. Sorry, got to correct you on that. It's really easy to find what M. Scott Veitch looks like, so no.
So why do the U.S. Navy have jurisdiction over space? Why on the same day that the Apollo missions in 1969 were happening, did we have the deepest dive to the bottom of the sea that no one has heard of? What do you think is going on here? Why do astronautical, why do they train in a massive pool of water? What might be going on here? What do you think might be told here?
You're not implying that they might have gone to the bottom of the ocean, are you, Pete?
Well, do you remember the Picard father and son ad by Hennessy?
I was just asking a rhetorical question. I wanted.
Right, sorry. Well, interesting to if you remember that ad, Anthony. See, suddenly how it juxtaposes from going upwards to coming upwards. So, is there a greater story being told here? Or there's a fractal nature to everything. There's a fractal nature to this reality. So,
The head is India, China, Russia, New Zealand, and soon to be Australia. How do they all? What level of flying did those space agencies have to do?
They put their people in place. They put their people.
How many people?
You're in the club, right?
How many people?
Hang on, you don't get to authoritative positions unless you're in the club, right? Unless you're put in place. Simple as that. What's wrong with you? Do you not know? Have you ever worked a job? Do you not know how this works? But as I say, there is a unifying theme. Earthwide, all countries in the world are involved. So I think we have to sort of use our own brains and thinking of cast our net wider. And maybe think of different possibilities going on here. For me, this is the game of life. And all the clues.
So you guys still haven't come up with some sort of number?
Number for what?
Approximately.
People?
Approximately how many people? What sort of estimate would you put at it?
There's two realities going on here. There's the people who know and the people who don't. We're the outsiders. We get the public education. These are the people who are born into affluent families, into clubs, all this sort of thing, right? They have a different reality.
So how many?
How many? Millions.
Right.
Millions, man.
How you doing?
Millions.
No, I'm talking about how many people have to know about the deception and willingly lie.
Hey, listen, Joe Blogs can tell you that NASA is faking it. Not to mind the people on the inside. They all know. Why didn't they make the fakery so obvious? But I bet you'll be another one who'll say that you never found any problems with most of the NASA footage. And also, I bet you'll be another one who'll say was that every argument you've heard from a flat earther, every video you've heard are seen as nonsense, and it didn't offer you any food for thought or anything.
So there's about 500 astronauts that have to be lying. Then we need a whole team of CGI experts as well. How many do you reckon there'd be of them?
Oh, well, let me see how many CGI experts were involved with 9/11. Remember that whole 102-minute movie we all saw? And we
no, hang on, not 9/11. I'm talking about worldwide. We're talking about SpaceX. We're talking about Virgin. We're talking about private enterprise. We're talking about other countries
all involved,
as well.
Yeah. All front companies. Virgin's a front company. Richard Branson's an actor, man.
You can't give me a number, can you?
I don't want to give you anything, man. You've just been ridiculous.
You're very close-minded, Was.
No, I'm not.
You are.
I'm not. You think about it. You guys, everything you guys believe in on a flat earth hinges on a massive deception.
No, it doesn't. How many times have I got to say this? It doesn't hinge on anything. You don't have to pay attention to NASA. You don't have to pay attention to the television. You don't have to pay attention to the propaganda that says you're on a sphere. You can just go and have a look at the world, and it's obviously and observably flat, Was.
But when you look at the world and it seems that way, and there's so much evidence...
It doesn't seem that way. We just see buildings and lighthouses, and you tell us they're not there. You are a fantasist. You think you see mirages. You see a building and say, I don't really see it. It's not really there. There's a curve I can't see blocking it, and it's being miraged at a predetermined radius value around that curve so it can sit on the horizon that's only 2 miles away. It's all nonsense, Was. You don't tell me that I have to accept anything when I just see buildings across the way. I just see them. You say they're mirages. You say they're blocked by Earth curve we don't see. That's what you say when we look at the real world, not the TV, not the propaganda.
So you've done some trapeze work. How many people need to support you when you're doing trapeze?
Who cares? It's got sod all to do with looking at the real world. You don't have to look at NASA and their trapeze act. You don't have to look at the TV. You don't have to take in the propaganda. Just look at the world around you. Turn off the TV and burn it. You don't need the propaganda.
Well, for Was, we are in a trapeze act, me and you, right? Because we're feet to feet at the minute. You're down in Australia. I'm in Ireland here. So if I was to go straight down right this minute and meet you in a flash, I would meet your feet first. Ridiculous. Stupid shit. Stupid shit. You're over there or whatever way.
It is stupid shit when you put it that way, mate. It is. Of course it is.
Thank you, man.
You've not addressed a word of what I've said, Was.
How many people are required?
You just keep asking the same question. You've not addressed anything I've just said.
Mate, hey, give us a break. You've been going on with the same crap for months.
Well, what are you going to do to reply to me saying I see a building and that's the end of my sentence? There's a building. You see it and say it's blocked by Earth curve. It's dropped away from you. You're looking down to see it. It's being loomed up to the horizon that's only a couple of miles away. It's not in your line of sight. It's an apparition. Right. It's a hologram. Okay. It's a mirage. Okay. That's what you have to say when you just see a simple photograph of a building. That's what you have to tell yourself. In this picture, right now on screen, that boat is at the same level as the buildings directly behind it. Yeah? Now, I don't see anything unusual in that picture. But you have to tell me that the entire image is being bent around a curved Earth in order for it to present itself like that. Now, to me, it just looks like a picture of the world we see. And when we examine it in detail, everything's on the same level. But when you examine it and see that it's on the same level, you say, no, The world is really bent, and it's being bent back to look straight by refraction based on a presupposition. That's what you do in the real world. Nothing to do with NASA. None of the images on screen are from the propaganda machine. They're all real pictures that you can verify. And when I ask you if you can verify NASA, the answer's no. You say, well, it's someone else that's verified them. Not you, though. Not these pictures that are real world.
Arwen's still here?
Yeah.
Arwen made to me earlier. Can I address it?
Sure.
Okay. Our accusation earlier that I pulled out of my ass the Bacon citation from the scientific method, and you cited from Wikipedia on Francis Bacon. So I'm going to cite the source here. You can see it in my screenshot. Scientific. I pulled up Wikipedia scientific method. The very first paragraph on the history of scientific method. This is what it says. Quotation: important debates in the history of science concern rationalism, especially as advocated by René Descartes, and/or empiricism as argued for by Francis Bacon, and rising to particular prominence with Isaac Newton and his followers, etc.
So that confirms what Arwen said. It didn't. He's arguing for it. It says the term scientific method did not come into wide use until the 19th century.
Notice what?
Can you see that little tidbit there on the side, below the statue? Aristotle?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the one that actually invented it.
No,
way before there.
He maintained that the syllogism is what determines truth. I have all of this cited in my article on this.
Well,
he did not believe that induction. He knew
this part
Arwen, let him
before,
speak.
and
Arwen,
no. What?
Carry on, Southern Israelite.
Okay, so it says right here, the citation says inductivism and/or empiricism is argued for by Francis Bacon. Here is right from the primary source, from the Novum Organum, section number 14, right here of his Novum Organum. The syllogism consists of propositions of words. Words are the signs of notions. If therefore the notions be confused and carelessly abstracted from things, there is no solidity in the superstructure. Our only hope then is genuine induction. The scientific method is based on induction. It says it right here.
No, that's not what that says.
That
entire thing was a philosophical statement, you dumbass.
Yeah, totally agree with Arwen. The entire thing was a philosophical statement. And just because one guy says it in the last couple of 100 years doesn't make it a fact. So what?
What, I'm sorry?
Doesn't make it a fact just because he stated it.
But hang on.
It was a philosophical statement. It wasn't about the scientific method. It was his science philosophy. Philosophy about science, not the scientific method.
Right.
That's what the scientific method is. It's induction.
God.
No. The scientific method establishes cause and effect. The scientific method is hypothesis driven. A hypothesis establishes cause and effect by means of independent and dependent variable. That's it. So your dependent variable is the observed phenomena. Step one in the scientific method is to observe a phenomena. Then you try and establish the cause of that effect.
So the source that Arwen cited earlier was Wikipedia. I pulled up the Wikipedia article on what the scientific method is.
According to this guy. That's what you're saying. According to this guy, this is what the scientific method is. So what? It does not change what the scientific method is. The scientific method, science, establishes cause and effect. The only
Are you saying that inductivism is not cause and effect?
In that methodology is for you to presume your cause in the cause and effect. You formulate a scientific hypothesis, which is a prediction, a scientific prediction, and then you go forward with systematic experimentation to validate your prediction, your presumed cause, your independent variable. That is science.
So you're dodging the point.
I'm not dodging anything. I am detailing unequivocally what science is. Science establishes cause and effect.
I'll ask again. Then are you saying the citation here from Wikipedia is incorrect?
No.
I don't care. I keep saying, you say this guy says science is this, and I say no. I don't care what this guy says. Couldn't care less. Science is a method. That method establishes cause and effect. That's it.
Yeah. And what you just cited was not about the scientific method. It was about science philosophy.
Okay, let's look at
it's interpretations, philosophical interpretations on how to conduct it.
Okay, I'm citing.
Later
Look
made.
at the title of the article that I'm citing, Arwen.
Yeah, the title, that part of the entire article, which is very big.
No, it's not part. It's the first damn sentence, the first paragraph of the history of the scientific method.
Read it again in context.
Let's get an admission. What is the title of the article that I'm citing?
From Wikipedia, you've just said you want to debunk Arwen for citing Wikipedia. Now you're at Wikipedia. What gives?
Hang on, let's read what it says.
Arwen cited earlier to say I was lying and pulling shit out of my ass. That's what he said.
You
about
are. And you're doing it right now, right again.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you want me to cite
it again?
Like
read that
slower for you or something? Okay, here we go.
Read the paragraph slowly in context.
Important debates in the history of science.
That's not the beginning of the article.
Hang on. What's the second word?
This is another part. This is history.
This is the history, because that's what the argument I made earlier was to the history of the scientific method. I said the man who created the scientific method, modern scientific method, was Francis Bacon.
Oh, you inserted a word there. You said modern scientific method. See, we don't tend to say the word modern in front of scientific method. We just say the scientific method. So you've now inserted this word modern. What gives?
Because it's the scientific revolution is something considered to be a part of the modern era.
Oh, really? That's fascinating. It doesn't change what the scientific method is. Science establishes cause and effect relationships by observing phenomena and then formulating hypotheses, followed up by systematic experimentation. That is the scientific method. I don't give a crap what this guy said. Okay?
Okay, so again, how was anything that I said earlier pulling anything out of my ass?
Because what you're saying is the scientific method is based on philosophy. It isn't.
Yes, it is.
No. Science establishes cause and effect. It is not philosophy.
Yeah, you're citing science
cause and effect
philosophy.
is not philosophy.
It's not the scientific method. It's the philosophy about the scientific method.
Okay, so Arwen, I'm still waiting. How was I pulling anything out of my ass earlier?
He's just answered the question.
How? What did I say that was pulling anything out of my ass?
The scientific method is not philosophical.
Okay, so you're saying then that the Wikipedia article is lying then?
No,
I'm saying that you're taking it out of context.
I'm not taking any. I'm not interpreting it. I'm just citing what it says.
Right. Wikipedia. So you're telling Arwen he's wrong for citing Wikipedia, and you're saying here's a Wikipedia entry because Arwen's Wikipedia entry was incorrect. Here's my Wikipedia entry, which includes only the modern era. So it doesn't validate what you're saying at all.
It's not even the start.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah,
hello.
I'm still waiting. How anything that I said was pulling anything out of my ass?
Because you're basing your interpretation of the scientific method on this element, which
the title of the article is scientific
You
method.
asked him a question. He said he repeated back what you were claiming, and before he got to actually define how you were pulling something out of your ass, you talked over him. I don't get it. You asked a question.
And he did talk over me.
Keep scrolling down to history, but that's not what it doesn't actually describe what the scientific method is. It just tells you how this person, Francis Bacon, has philosophized about how to conduct it and how to progress.
Darwin's right.
That's philosophy. It is not about the scientific method. He did not devise the scientific method. He just philosophized.
Darwin's right. Listen to him.
So, okay, so you're saying then that the words inductivism and or empiricism is not the scientific method?
Oh my God. Science establishes cause and effect. It does this by first observing phenomena, then formulating hypothesis. The scientific method is hypothesis-driven. Once you formulate a scientific hypothesis with an independent variable, your presumed cause, something you can vary as a researcher, and your dependent variable, which is the phenomena you have observed, you can then go forward to try and validate your hypothesis. You do this with systematic experimentation. That, sir, is the scientific method.
I'm waiting for you to answer my question.
Yeah, right. You asked then, that distinguishes against inductivism how, correct? Is that what you said?
How is what Nathan just said about dependent variables determining cause and effect distinct from the words inductivism and or empiricism?
Right.
It's not a part
Inductivism,
of
do you know what inductive science is? Not science, right? Inductive reasoning is not proof. Do you agree with that statement?
Please answer the
exactly
question.
why science is not proof.
Answer the question.
Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question for you. From that very sentence in which Francis Bacon is mentioned, it doesn't say this is the scientific method. It just talks about important debates in history of science concern rationalism. Rationalism is also philosophy. It's all about the philosophy of
so
it.
You're
this
saying
is
you're
not
saying
describing the scientific method. This is about philosophical discussions about it, you idiot.
Okay, so the first paragraph of the history of the scientific method article is not about the scientific method. That's your argument.
Important debates in history of science concerning rationalism, especially as advocated by René Descartes.
You're a total douchebag, Arlen. You're a lying
as
piece of
argued
shit.
for
You
by
can't
Francis
admit
Bacon.
you're
I'm
wrong.
freaking citing
All you
the
guys are
sentence
total
right there, you
douchebags.
idiot.
Arwin, let me deal with this once.
Tell me what the difference is
Israelite.
between the history of science and the history of the scientific method in the context of the article.
It's called the history of. It's not called the science of.
Well,
It's
the context
history
of my statement earlier was the history of the scientific method.
Who cares? Who cares about the history of it? We're worried about the application of it, not the history of it. We want to know what they have, the ballers that is, to validate their bullshit ball model based on science. So when we ask for science, we're not asking for the history of science or the philosophy of science. We're asking for the scientific method to be adhered to. Simple.
You're just deflecting from everything that I've said.
You're deflecting. I just quoted the freaking sentence right there. It's debates, debates about it. It's not the scientific method. He did not invent the scientific method. He debated about it. He talked about it. He had philosophical discussions about it, what he thought about it, where it should be going and all that. That's philosophy. It's not the scientific method. It is about the scientific method.
I own you guys enough.
How are you, man?
I'm very satisfied with this.
Yeah, you're stuttering. You're stuttering like a rumpus.
That's not an argument, and you're not
No,
answering any argument.
You haven't made an argument. You've asked people, where are you wrong? We've told you, because you're saying that's science, and you're just quoting the history of science. We then tell you what the scientific method is. I made a historical argument. And you talk over everybody and claim that they haven't debunked what you've claimed, and we have.
I'm addressing everything that you're saying quickly and directly, and you're getting butthurt because I'm refuting you in front of all your audience.
Okay, if you say so.
I can't understand how you can take the history paragraph in context and claim that it's current.
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Because everything comes down to how you determine what's true. I mean, that's how you determine what's true. It's the most important issue.
It's how you're interpreting the history paragraph and claiming it's current.
I wasn't interpreting. I was citing.
No, you were interpreting
about discussions about the scientific method through philosophy. That's what you were citing.
Arwin, wait, give me a sec. Give me a sec, Arwin. You were interpreting the word inductive and empirical in the context of the history of the scientific method and claiming it's somehow relevant now. That's the problem.
So you're saying that now inductivism and empiricism are mutually exclusive from the scientific method?
No, I'm saying that the distinguished empiricism is inductive reasoning is not.
So philosophical stuff.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Guys, lied about me. You lied about me earlier. You insulted me earlier, and I owned you in front of your audience.
And I
let me jump
your
in.
argument, and you can't take it, and you're stuttering like a rumpus, idiot.
Let me jump in real quick for Southern, just real quick.
He's
okay?
gone. I think he dropped.
Well, I still see him on my screen, but
no,
I didn't drop anywhere.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this.
Okay, so here's my
The
thought.
fruits of my vengeance.
Okay, great. I've just been trying to
The truth is your
think
vengeance.
of a way
did you
to
say?
address your question.
Who are you avenging?
Empiricism.
No, Arwen, talk all the shit you want. You called me a liar,
Yeah,
and
and
I
you
came
are
in
a
here to
liar.
own your
I'm
ass.
trying to
liar.
have a
Delusional.
conversation.
Fuck you, freak.
Can
Chill
someone
out.
let me talk real quick,
No
please?
need to
Just
swear.
Yeah,
Chill.
you go. This is
All right,
full
so
of
look,
shit.
Person. I
Look,
love it.
the empiricism and the inductive approaches, those are the observations. We make inductions and we empirically deduce things from what we see. That leads to hold on. That leads to then the scientific method, which then tests to verify. So induction and empiricism is the beginning. We have to make observations. But
Right.
simply because I see a phenomenon and then I inductively deduce a conclusion, I might be wrong. So that's where the scientific method steps in. Hopefully, Southern, that makes sense to you.
Exactly. Well said.
What you're doing, hang on, wait. What you're saying is that inductiveness and empiricism are the scientific method in the paragraph about the history.
Oh,
yeah, that's what you said.
Oh,
You
no.
You said
no.
inductiveness and empiricism were the scientific method because it says in the paragraph history on the page it's scientific method, and that's nonsense. It's talking historical.
Anthony, are you talking to me or Southern?
Southern.
Okay, okay. Southern, how did you feel about Southern, how did you feel about my little statement there? Was it clear to you?
No, it was a bunch of random Dunning-Kruger nonsense.
Right, so you're not listening.
Really?
Yeah.
I am pretty sure it was pretty straightforward.
You did say you can inductively deduce something.
Okay, so if induction and empiricism are part of the scientific method, then you're admitting that I was right. That Francis
That's not
Bacon
what he
created the
said. You
scientific
didn't
method.
listen, did you?
No.
Southern.
Take the shit out of your ears and actually listen to what people have to say here.
Arwen, is your estrogen leaking on the floor now after being owned in front of your
Nathan,
friends?
can you cut this shit?
Yeah,
please?
this is done. I was pretty clear. I thought I could maybe.
Hey, don't lie about me in public, and I won't come in here and humiliate you in front of your friends.
I'm not
Don't lie here in public, and I won't.
I haven't lied, and you accused me of that. I came in here and I owned your ass on the point.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
And I enjoyed every
Not
second
all.
of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. You love to declare victory when you actually don't have any.
Right when
Boys, come on,
Yes, I do.
now, calm down. Stop being drama queens. Let's have a discussion.
Don't lie about me in public.
That's the third time you've said that. What is it with you and drama queens at the moment? You seem to be mentioning drama queens quite a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of drama queens.
Fair enough.
Listen to them.
I'm probably the only drama queen on the panel.
That's true.
Well, you're an expert in drama.
I wouldn't say I was an expert.
You're versed in it.
I'm well versed in drama. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's your job, Nathan.
So, Ruhif, have you worked out the difference between perspective and curvature yet?
I know what they both are, Anthony.
Oh, great. Did you see my my opening 10 minutes at the start of the first show today?
No, actually, no.
Oh, right. I'll concisely do it for you now. Nathan, would you mind presenting my screen, sir?
Sure.
So, Ruhif.
I've got to find you. Hold on. There you are. Whoops. Something's right going. All right.
We got to a consensus in the comments that it's the cumulative curve that's the issue, correct?
When you're looking down the line, you can see further. So the further away they are, the more the cumulative drop is. Yes.
So I think this is about 11 to 13 miles away. The turbines that, like, the first one's 11 miles away. The last one's about 13 miles away. I might be wrong. It doesn't really matter. My point is, whatever the distance is there, the distance here is less than a mile. And my question is, why do they both look the same when one of them's got about 75 feet of curvature and the other one's got like 6 inches of curvature? Why do we see the same straight line towards the horizon in both pictures?
I would need to model both the.
I'll see you when you've done your modeling.
But the answer's
Yeah,
obvious.
you're asking me. You're asking me
perspective.
if I can see curvature in that turbine image. No.
Right, but you should see curvature because it's 13 miles away compared to less than 1. But what we do see is the main ingredient or main element of the picture is perspective, and it's the same ingredient in this one. However, this one's meant to have curvature in it, but these two pictures are fundamentally the same. How can that be if that one is supposed to have 13 miles worth of curvature at 75 feet on it?
There's an issue.
Don't forget about the lake.
There's an outstanding
Don't
issue
forget
now.
about Lake
Hold on.
Pontchartrain, too. Lake
There's an outstanding issue. Ruhif said that you can't see the curve in this. So can you put the wind turbines back up? Ruhif, are you saying now, yesterday I asked you to qualify that this was going over the curve and you said yes. Are you now saying no?
No, you asked me, are these turbines on a curve? And I said, yes, they are. They're on the Earth. The Earth is spherical, so they're on a curve.
So
you didn't ask me whether I could see curvature in this photo.
So the curvature that we see in this photo is not replicated when you look side on.
I've explained that in the first comment on the video.
Hang on, stop. That's where Ruif got confused, and I think we should avoid that because it confused him. Because it should be the same amount of. Why do we? It should be different to what we're looking at here. We see less than a mile, and we see a straight line, which you would expect to see because there's only 8 inches of curve. But on this one, there's 75 feet of curve because of the distance. So before, when Nathan showed you the side-on picture of the turbines,
75 feet. It's not 75 feet over 2 miles.
That's the point. It's not over 2 miles, is it, over here? When we're looking at the 13 miles or whatever it is, it's 75 feet. So why is there not 75 feet of curvature over this straight line horizon picture of these turbines, but there is a straight line here? There should be curvature.
There's 11 miles before it.
They look identical. They both have the effects of perspective applied to them.
No, I don't think you're getting it. There's still only 2 miles worth of turbines there. 2 miles does not equal 75
miles
feet.
away, Ruhif.
Yes.
So why isn't it dropped
is 11 miles
feet?
away.
Yes, and they are.
Why isn't it dropped 75?
Hold on, Anthony. In total, they have reached the point where the exponential curve of the Earth kicks in. So they are.
And to visualize that, I would need to model it to see what it should look like.
No, we've already done it with your mathematics, and we have calculated
but
they are according to the math. Oh, okay, sorry, my bad.
You were clear last night, Nathan, when you said, are these turbines on a curve? And I said, yes, they're on the Earth, therefore they are curved. You did not ask me whether I can see the curve in this photo.
Obviously.
Right, who cares?
So
that's
you're saying, hold on,
now, right?
hold on, let's get some clarity on that then. So go back to the turbines. So are you now saying that these are not curving and you cannot see curve in them?
I'm saying they are curving because they are on the Earth.
So I'll ask it again in the exact same words. Are you saying you
I'll
cannot
give you the exact same answer.
Cannot see any curve in this picture? You can't see it. Is that what you're saying?
I can't tell what is perspective there and what is curve because I don't know.
Who cares? You don't account for perspective, so who cares? It's not accounted for in your mathematics.
Perspective, correct. It shouldn't be.
Well, you've just said you don't know what's perspective and what's curvature. So are you telling me that there's another?
No.
Well, shouldn't you account for it if you're saying you can't tell the difference?
No, because the
Why
curve
not?
calculator doesn't take a photo.
Sorry, you're comparing it to a photo, though.
Yeah, I would love to model it and see what it should look
Not
like.
model it, dumbass. Listen to my words. You're comparing the mathematics to photographs.
Yes.
Yes, and you've just said you don't know the difference between perspective and curvature.
From this photo, because I don't know where it was taken
Right,
from.
but you're comparing maths to that.
Oh, jeez, Nathan.
Not geez. You are
Yes.
comparing mathematics to this photograph.
Yeah, and where was this photo taken?
Yeah, and
At
these
what elevation?
photographs include perspective. And you're telling the audience you don't know the difference between what is curvature and what is perspective, and ultimately you ignore one of them and just say it's curve.
I cannot tell from this photo what is perspective and what is curvature because
Right. So why would you need to? You're saying it's not necessary to account for perspective. So who cares?
I'm just going to repeat myself, Nathan.
Yeah, you've been doing that for a long
Go on
time
then.
now.
Stop record.
You do not need to account for perspective in doing the calculation. Hey, Ruth.
When we're comparing to a photograph that does have perspective in it.
Thanks, Sleep. Thanks, Anthony, for muting me. Wanker.
There is a conversation going on here.
Yeah, and I was asked a question, you idiot.
No, you weren't. Nobody asked you a damn thing, Rumpus.
He was asking me a question.
Nobody asked you anything. Nobody asked you anything.
Let him talk, guys. Come on.
Nathan just asked me a question.
No, I did not.
And Anthony bloody muted me straight away.
I didn't ask you anything. You just joined in the conversation arbitrarily.
Yeah, and then you said something, and you asked me about the calculators do not consider perspective, but when you're looking at a photograph, someone's interrupting me again. When you're looking at a photograph,
nobody asked you to speak.
When you're looking at a photograph, when you're looking at a photograph, I know you don't like the reality. You don't invalidate your argument, Anthony, but it's so easy to do. I can invalidate you so easily.
Let him speak, Anthony.
You don't even let me. You see, you try and stop me from invalidating.
It's so lovely talking over you because you start repeating yourself.
And you've picked it up from Nathan. And I'm about to invalidate the whole of Nathan's argument, but you don't like it. I know.
The whole.
I will describe exactly the issue you're talking about. The photograph. When you're dealing with photographs, you then have to do something extra. Oh, God. Who's talking? Right, so when you're using a photograph, oh, gee, someone's echoing. When you're using a photograph, you have to do some extra analysis to work out the absolute sizes of the things in the image.
We're not trying to work out the absolute sizes. We're dealing with perspective in the picture and not trying to calculate out the absolute sizes. We are dealing with the photograph as it sits. Absolutely inclusive of perspective. So don't tell me about what the absolute sizes are. It's only relevant to a calculator that can only utilise absolute sizes. It is irrelevant.
Muting reality, Nathan. You're just muting reality.
No, I'm shutting you up when I talk.
I was given the punch.
Why can't you just let him finish?
Because he's no longer there.
We do not see the world in absolute sizes. We see things in relative sizes. So him telling us that we can extract the absolute sizes from the picture is irrelevant because we see the actual sizes never. We only see the relative sizes in the picture, which will be compared to an absolute size calculator. That is how they exclude perspective.
Man, Nathan, we've been going for 2 hours.
No, we haven't. Not quite.
Oh, it says that here.
So, Ruhif, you have a picture and you're telling the audience that you cannot tell the difference between the perspective which you ignore and the curvature. Why would it not be necessary to therefore account for the two things that you can't tell apart?
Because I don't know the position and the observer height, Nathan. I will say this every time you ask the question.
But the observer height is plugged into the mathematical equation that you extract out curvature from.
Height?
Yes, and we have done that. We've done it with that. And it says that it matches. It doesn't include perspective, but it says that they are falling away on a curve.
What's the observer height for that photo?
Ranty, what's the observer height for that particular observation? Ranty will get back to you. It makes no difference. Your calculator doesn't account for the viewing angle either.
I can't do it on my phone anyway, so I'll do it tomorrow.
Do what?
Give you an answer as to what it should look like.
We've got a picture of it. You don't need to tell me what something should look like when we've got a photograph of it. That's just the problem with you Globers. You like to tell us what it should look like when we see it on a picture. So you compare what we do see to a calculation that ignores perspective. Something we do see in the picture being compared.
I can show you what it should look like on a flat Earth and what it should look like
no,
on a globe,
we've got a picture.
We
have got a picture. You don't need to show me what it would look like. We've got a photograph.
Yeah, and is that a picture of a flat Earth or a picture of a globe?
It's a picture.
Yeah, of a flat Earth.
The world. It's a picture of the world.
Yeah, is the Earth a globe or is the Earth a flat?
Well, according to the calculations that you will plug that picture into, you presuppose that it's a curved Earth, Ruhif. So to answer your question... Oh, you're talking over me now? To answer your question, when you calculate it, you already know it's a globe because you've got a radius value, haven't you, Ruhif?
No, you already presuppose it's flat.
No, there's no presupposition the measurements are the same. You insert a radius to the same measurements.
Yeah, and you don't.
Yeah, so we don't presuppose anything. You insert a presupposition. So in answer to your question, when we measure, if you can shut your mouth long enough, you already know it's a sphere. Because you presuppose it's a sphere with a presupposed radius value. So to answer your question, you already know it's a sphere when you measure it.
No, you already know it's flat. When you
I don't do anything in terms of presupposing anything. I use the same exact measurements as you. I just don't have R.
Yeah, you assume it's flat. That's
No, you use the same exact... So if I've got a presupposition that it's flat, and it's the same measurement that you make, but just add R to it, so you're saying both of them have got a presupposition it's flat, you add to that presupposition the radius of Earth. Therefore, there's two presuppositions in both models. Yours has radius and flat. So you start your model as flat. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's
not flat.
You just said that you start with the presupposition of flat. And all we do is take the same measurements. So if my presupposition is it's flat and then there's no radius added, and your presupposition is it's flat and then there's a radius added, you already know it's a sphere. There is no presupposition. They both work on the same measurement. You add in a presupposition that the Earth is a sphere. So you're asking me whether or not I know if it's flat or whether or not it's a sphere based on the picture. You already know it's a sphere. You presuppose that.
Then we need to go to a higher authority.
No! We just have a look at this stuff and see it, you dumbass. How many times? Why'd you have to go to bloody NASA? Do you have to be spoon-fed everything, was?
I didn't say NASA, mate.
Yeah, you went to a higher authority. Higher. Well, higher means up, doesn't it? So I assume, having defended NASA for about the last 2 hours, that you mean NASA when you say you've got to go to a higher authority.
Yeah, or you just got to take drugs.
Yeah, no is not an argument.
Yeah, Ruhif. So this is the plain truth. I made some comments on your recent videos, but yeah. So I'm going to disagree. It's not a presupposition. Okay, we are looking at the world and we are viewing the world. We are seeing the world. Okay, so when we look at the world, we don't presuppose we're seeing something. We just look at what we're seeing. Now,
I see curve and you see flat.
No, you don't see curve.
You don't
tell
see
us
curve,
that it's
man.
flattened out,
You don't.
Ruhif. You don't see any curve.
You don't see flat, dude. You don't see flat.
Yeah, we do. We see the buildings. You tell us they're not there, was, dumbass.
Oh, someone wanted an example of looming, didn't they?
No, it's not an example of something that we see and is not there. That's what looming is. A mirage. Yeah, we just see the buildings and accept that they are there. You tell us there's a curve we can't see blocking the view and it's being brought back from beyond a curve that we can't see because it's a mirage. That's what you tell us after we just see a building and say, isn't it nice?
Yeah, and someone wanted an example, right?
No.
I'm sure someone wanted an example of looming.
Oh, right. Well, tell you what, Ruhif, on screen right now, you've got something that is at 20 miles distance.
On whose screen?
On my screen.
Yours?
Yeah.
All right.
20 miles distance.
Yeah.
So before I
What is it?
Well, where's the curve?
What's the observation? I don't
There's
know
a
what I'm looking
boat
at.
between you and a building. As far as
There's a
it
boat.
seems on this picture... Now, you're going to tell me I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. They're on the same level, as far as I can tell. What I also observe is that this clock tower is definitely bigger than the boat, even though it looks to be the same height as the hull. Now, that is a fact called...
Well done for perspective, Nathan. Well done.
It's called perspective. You don't account for it in your mathematics, Ruhif. I'm just telling
shouldn't
you
you,
that absolutely this building appears smaller in this picture of the real world. Not model, not mathematics, picture. And it all looks flat, Ruhif. I'm asking you, where's the curve that you observe? Because what you would have to say, Ruhif, is that this is being loomed. We don't really see these buildings, do we, Ruhif?
I have no idea what this picture is of. What is it?
It's a picture of something that's 20 miles away from the beach.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so there should be a bloody Earth curve in the way, Ruhif. Where the hell is it?
What am I looking at? Like how high is this?
Beach.
Say it again, Anthony.
Beach, ground level. He's at the
Is
water.
This Barrow in Furnace.
Yeah.
Is this Barrow in Furnace?
Yeah. He's at the beach.
Yeah. Oh, I've made 2 videos on Ranty's observation.
So are we seeing it, or is it a mirage?
Well, I can't help if you don't understand it, Anthony.
Is it a mirage,
No,
or
we
can
do
we
understand.
see these buildings?
Is that a mirage? I would say probably.
Probably because you're a retard. I see the buildings because they're there. You see the buildings and decide that they are a mirage because your model says they're a mirage. That's because you're a religious zealot.
Yeah. Somewhat.
Yeah. You see them and decide that they're not really there. That makes you a fantasist. They are there. I see them. They've been photographed. They get photographed repeatedly. But every time they get photographed, they're a mirage because your model says they're a mirage.
But Nathan, he has a big problem in that because mirage and it looming up is a band-aid theory. It's not actually part of their model because they can't model it. They cannot replicate that effect. Even in a ray tracing program, it's undoable.
It's not. I made 2
really? It's
videos
not
doing it.
So why don't you make a CGI image of a ball Earth and then things looming up into a perfectly visible flat surface as we see things?
There is a demonstration on YouTube of a guy looming up a some plasticine.
That's not what I asked
No, he doesn't.
I asked
that's
for
not
you
what he shows with the butane and the plasticine. We've had it on this show. That is absolutely not what he demonstrates. Yeah? He shows obstruction. He does not show looming.
What?
The butane example. It's utter horseshit. I don't know why you've just asserted that. Presumably you just thought nobody had seen it. Yeah, that butane example does not demonstrate looming.
That's exactly
It
what
does
it
not
demonstrates.
loom up
Sorry, is there a
uniformly
layer of
around the curve.
butane between us and this target?
No, but
Shut your stupid dumb mouth. We are not living in a layer of butane.
Fuck yourself, Nathan.
We don't live in butane, idiot.
Yeah, he's doing an example of like.
He's doing an example with butane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you breathe butane, retard? Is that why you're
What's the
so
density
dumb?
of
Because you've
butane,
spent
Nathan?
your time breathing butane?
What's the density of butane, Nathan?
Who cares? It's not air.
It is transparent and it has a high density.
So what? You breathing butane. We're not looking at this through butane. Butane is not comparable.
It is comparable.
Oh, really? Well, I'm not breathing butane, and I'm looking at something that is through visible, breathable air, not butane.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because it's not a uniformly looming up image that goes. It just causes a minor local mirage distortion, a slight bending
looms
of a
up the
fracture of
red.
light. It doesn't uniformly loom everything up behind that curve, which
No, not
is what you
uniformly, and we
need
went
it
through
to
that
be
before, right?
if you want to imagine this flat Earth into a ball.
Not uniformly. Looks pretty uniform to me.
Exactly.
What's wrong with it?
It has to
What's wrong with it?
uniformly
You said it's
loom
not
everything.
uniform. When the
Everything
butane,
in a uniform manner.
when the false
No, we went through
analogy of
this
the
last night.
butane, when the false analogy of the butane is used, it doesn't come up in perfect proportion, does it?
Exactly.
No, and neither was
Right.
the mountains
Well,
behind
what's wrong with
Barrow.
this
We talked
picture?
about this last night.
What's wrong with this picture?
Sorry, Owen was speaking. What was that?
What's wrong with it? Where's this stretching, squashing? Where is it? What's wrong with it?
I can't tell from this photo. I don't know
It
what
just looks
is
like a
of.
picture of a building to me. It just looks like a clock tower. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't look like it's being stretched and miraged around a curve.
How
It
can
just
you
looks like a
tell?
building.
What's the original shape of that clock tower? What's the original shape of the clock tower? How can you tell that it's stretched or not, or
Just
compressed?
have a look at the clock tower in an original image. Why? What's the point of this?
Yeah,
Are you
I
saying
can't.
that this
I'm on
is
my
being
fucking phone,
distorted?
Nathan.
My point is that I just see a building. You're saying it's not really there.
Correct.
Not correct. It is there, you dumbass. We see it because it's there. You have to tell yourself it's not there because you're a fantasist globehead. Yeah, but you think that's acceptable. Yeah, because you've gone to your model. You don't just look at this and go, clock tower. You look at this and go, let's go and do the maths. According to the maths, it's not there. According to the maths, it's blocked by Earth curve. But according to the maths, I can bring it back if I take that assumed sphere and flatten it back out again with standard refraction, with terrestrial refraction. I'll just flatten it back out again. But even if you do that, you still end up with this picture, defying all of your Band-Aid theories. This doesn't do what your Band-Aid theory should say it should do. We're still seeing it, even though there's massive obstructions. It doesn't match the maths.
I can't help if your brain doesn't comprehend the refraction of light, Nathan. I can't help you.
No, the refraction of light you claim bends the light around a sphere Earth 76R. So that's nothing to do with anything scientific, purely based on assumption. What do you mean I don't understand 76R? That's really simple. That's not based on anything complicated. You just apply it arbitrarily to the sphere that you presuppose. So that's not complicated.
It's not arbitrary.
Really? So you've got scientific evidence of the R, have you? Or do you think that that's not arbitrary?
I can take you through the entire maths of where they get
maths. Oh, right. Sorry. Not arbitrary then. You've got a mathematical justification. Wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You can tell me all about that. Like, you can tell me this building isn't there. Yeah, I'd love to sit here and listen to you babble on about how this building isn't really there and how I can't really see it. But frankly, I just don't believe you. I see it. There it is. It's quite clear and obvious. But, you know, if you globeheads want to decide that maths says it's not really there, then that's your bag. That's your fantasy. You are a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena fantasist. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider subscribing or sharing it with a friend. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!